Um, Perfect. So welcome, everybody. It is Tuesday, May 14th for the Hudson River Park Advisory Council meeting. We're going to do some welcomes and housekeeping first. Please first sign in on the attendance sheet. The link is on the agenda. If you need it, feel free to shout out, but even if you're in the room, if you have to check your emails, if you need that, we can send that. Okay, it was, alrighty. So the first thing would be, I need somebody to take minutes because Dan is not here today. Do I have any volunteers in the executive committee to take minutes? Thank you. Okay, that's Jessica. Perfect. All right, so meeting call to order at 6:37, let's call it. Please sign in on the attendance form if you need it in the room. Please let me know and I'll email it to you. First thing is the minutes for April 2024. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do I have a second? Anybody online?
Second.
Second, perfect. All right.
Could I please ask in advance that we get the minutes a little further than an hour and a half before the meeting so that we can read them?
Tom,
Thank you.
Absolutely. We are even lucky this evening that we have a Zoom, just to let you know. There was a very strong possibility the entire meeting would have had to have been canceled tonight. So I'm delighted that we're actually in a position to go forward. All right, with that, we'll do a vote by affirmation. Are there any abstentions? Are there any recusals? Are there any in opposition? Tom abstains, I believe, is what I see for a hand. Okay, one abstention, minutes pass. Okay, before we do the membership committee report, we're gonna actually do a swap up to allow some of our electeds who needed to present tonight and be on multiple meetings. So Matt, I believe the floor is yours, correct?
Sure, thanks, Tammy. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Ty. I'm staff for Assembly Member Tony Simone. The last time I was here 2 months ago, I spoke a bit about the work that Assemblymember Simone and Senator Hoylman Siegel were doing on legislation regarding the future of Pier 76. So I'm here now tonight that we now do have a bill that I'm really excited to share a lot of details with you, which are very similar in line with what I talked about last time. Just a quick background. Last summer, the trust had convened the Pier 76 task force to explore ideas that could lead to the successful redevelopment of Pier 76 as a location that would both provide high quality open space and also revenue generation that would help support the overall care and maintenance of the park. The task force included all the elected officials who represent the park, as well as representatives from the Advisory Council, Community Boards 1, 2, 4, Park Friends, and Trust Board members. And essentially what we were faced with was Pier 76 needing up to $150 million in repair and reconstruction costs that are going to be faced in the near future. Otherwise, we may have the complete removal of the pier for any public use. So when at the conclusion of the task force, the results of the work were published, and Manhattan Community Board 4 then wrote a letter with recommendations based on the work of the task force for the future of Pier 76. Our offices took the work of the task force as well as CB4's request and designed a piece of legislation reflecting that work. So the bill essentially has two parts. One part regards solely the commercial development at Pier 76 and only allows for options that were reviewed favorably by the task force and were recommended by CB4. So these include commercial office development, and a key aspect of that is that there's a height limit set in the legislation that matches the height of the Javits Center across the street. It would allow for amusement rides and tourist attractions, such as a carousel, facilities for waterborne transportation activities, which if you're familiar with the Blue Highway concept, which was pretty popular with the task force and in CB4 meetings, that would be an allowable use. Float-in restaurants. And finally, the bill would allow for the footprint shape of the pier to be changed as the pier is going to be fully reconstructed, but it will have to maintain its historical size. So, for example, like the pier is kind of shaped like a T. It would allow for like the northern bit to be moved combined with the southern part, and that would be allowed if it would allow for a commercial use that would reflect in better open park space overall. The second part of the bill, which we're very excited to announce, so over the years, the Assembly member and senator have carried a bill that would remove the heliport from Hudson River Park. We've long seen the heliport as a noxious use in the park that the community has long wanted gone. And with the upcoming construction for the Gateway Tunnel approaching, that's going to disable the southern helipads anyway, we felt now is the time to just get rid of it once and for all. So that a separate piece of legislation was drawn into this piece. So it's one bill affecting to amend the Hudson River Park Act that deals with both Pier 76 and the heliport. So I know I jumped into your agenda a bit tonight, so I want to keep my part brief. But if there's time, I'm happy to take any questions. Also happy to discuss any details over the phone later this week if anyone would like. But the Assembly member really wanted me to extend my thanks to everyone who participated in the task force. I know there's quite a few in this meeting who were part of that, all the members of CB4 who participated in what was a fairly long process with a lot of long meetings that really dug deep into the issues at the pier and created solutions that we could have a really positive future and bring a really massive new section of the park online that we'll be able to enjoy for decades to come. And without all that input, we would not have been able to create this bill. So I'm also joined by Sam and Jonah from the Senator's office. But Tammy, if there's time, happy to take any questions.
Sure, I'm happy to give a couple of questions because I know that this is a critically important issue for the park. I would ask Matt if you can have the link to the bill sent to us, or if you can reply to the invitation so you can share that information with the entire advisory council so they can look at it in more granular level. That would be really appreciated.
Absolutely, be happy to.
Okay, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Nobody has a question? Okay, well, I assume that we may have questions after we all read it in detail. So Matt, please do that. That would be great. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll share that a whole group and feel free to call our office to talk about it if anyone has anything.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Wanted to echo Matt and thank everybody for your participation in all of this, and just share the sentiment that we're happy to take any questions and feedback, and don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Well, just quickly, this is Jessica, Chair at Community Board 4, and just add my thanks and appreciation to both offices and to the working group everyone participated. We are really gratified that the work of the working group moving forward in the recommendations of our Waterfront Parks and Environment Committee and full board were acknowledged here, and of course the past letters and requests. So I'm sure hear a lot of enthusiasm from folks on our board, and we support it. Please let us know.
Phenomenal. Well, thank you very, very much. I'm going to move on. I was happy to have Matt go at the top of the agenda, hoping that Wendy might be able to join us, but I know that she is quite busy at the moment and might not be able to, so I'm going to help her out. And our membership committee chair is out of the country at the moment, so we'll just do a quick introduction. We have 2 new applicants for membership from New York Cruise Lines and Upper West Strategies. So we'll do that in the order. You can have 5 minutes each to present in a second. I'm just going to overlay how we're going to do this. Our new applicants are going to speak. We'll have a membership vote via open vote. Before we go do that, we're going to go down the list of members to ensure the emails that we have on file to make sure that we have the right person, because it's only 1 vote per member organization. And if the alternate is here versus the immediate, just to cut down on but I didn't get the email, we're going to confirm along the way who's here and what we have. If you're online and you want to send that directly to Robert Atterbury, that would be fantastic. That'll help us move a little bit faster. And with that, let me turn it over to New York Cruise Lines.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me tonight. Thanks to all of you. I appreciate it. My name is Peter Ebright. I am General Counsel and the Vice President at New York Cruise Lines. New York Cruise Line is the parent company to the subsidiaries New York Water Taxi, World Yacht, and Circle Line. New York Water Taxi is a ferry company that does transportation and sightseeing. Has 10 vessels in its fleet, 539 passenger vessels, 599 passenger vessels, the 24th is in Brooklyn, but for World Yacht and Circle Line, our import is in our base of operations is that there's 81 and 82. Where we've been since 1955. Circle Line has 6 vessels in its fleet. They've all been built within the last 15 years. We see about 1 million people come through 8193. World Yacht, our other brand, operates 2 floating restaurants. The North River Lobster Company from the part of Canada. So yeah, as I said, we've been at 81 and 83 since 1955. We see that many people come through every year, and we really take a lot of pride in the fact that we are citizens of the park. We've been there for a very, very long time. We've been there through better times and not as good times, but we really see an incredibly bright future for our area of the park. But we really want to be a part of what's going on there. We want to deepen our relationship as citizens of the park, and so we would love to have a voice on the advisory council to be able to lend our input and to be able to hear what's going on, provide feedback. As far as just giving a little bit of information about our fleet, for New York Water Taxi, we are looking to add an electric boat to our fleet to kind of test those waters. It's not an easy process. Finding the infrastructure to be able to do the charging is really the hard part. But we are looking at that as once we train that up and then that will be a test set to see how electrification works for of our size. But we're looking forward to changes both within our company and within the park, and there's a large organization that's going on in front of us, and so we really like to be able to do more of what's going on there and provide input. With that, if any of you have any questions,
Does anybody in the room have any questions? No. Does anybody online have any questions? That's fun. Congratulations. Thank you. Now let's welcome Overwatch Strategy.
Hi, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Sharon Albert Kaplan, the Senior Program Director at Upper West Strategy, which runs the Lifeguard NYC internship program. As I understand it, Hudson River Park science and education programming, including green jobs and research, is an area of growth right now, and hence our invitation to submit an application for the advisory council. As a brief introduction, Upper West Strategies is a small business that runs workforce development programs for New York City. Our flagship program, the LifeSci NYC internship program, is now in its 7th year and is the workforce development component of the New York City Economic Development Corporation's 10-year initiative to build the life sciences industry in New York City. We've built and run the program since its inception after being selected through an RFP process in 2017. Through the program, we've had the pleasure of working with Hudson River Park, along with over 200 other companies and organizations that have hosted over 900 students through our program. The LifeSci NYC internship program's mission is to ensure that New York City college and graduate students are prepared for all the jobs that are being created as the industry grows. To accomplish this, we place New York City students into internships and entry-level jobs in both industry and nonprofit organizations, and also provide extensive professional development and programming. Our program defines life sciences broadly, intentionally including environmental and sustainability organizations among our internship hosts. Like HRP, we work to ensure that those we serve are as representative as possible of the geographic and demographic diversity of New York City as a whole, and that those underrepresented in science or lacking in prior connections gain opportunities through our program. Even for those students who don't place into internships, we strive to contribute for them being able to achieve their career goals, as well as learn about career pathways and opportunities that are available to them in the life sciences. In past years, we have placed several applicants into summer positions here at Hudson River Park. Working on this program for the better part of a decade has given us extensive expertise in the process for STEM students to find their way into relevant careers. Being well versed in the professional development interests and needs of New York City college and graduate students and of employers, we would bring our unique perspective to the advisory council in being able to provide input on initiatives that would appeal to and support New York City's young people. Through this work, we've developed a large network of contacts in STEM education and in industry, including the youth development team at the American Museum of Natural History that runs the Science Research Mentorship Program, hundreds of educators at CUNY campuses and beyond, and hundreds of employers. We found that a significant portion of our applicants are specifically interested in the sustainability aspect of working in the life sciences. We would welcome the opportunity to advise Hudson River Park as needed on ways to engage young people and students and on successful strategies for preparing them for careers. We have a wide network, nearly 500 strong, of contacts in virtually every university in New York City. We also run a meetup group with 3,000 members and attract upwards of 3,500 applicants each year, all of whom we communicate with on a weekly basis. We often use these communications to share relevant opportunities of interest around the city, and a closer relationship with Hudson River Park would presumably yield a number of such opportunities to share via our regular outreach to our carefully honed demographic. Should Hudson River Park be weighing various programming offerings, our program's experience offering a wealth of professional development events for the students, career panels, info sessions, workshops, etc., provides us with a honed understanding of what interests students and gets them to engage. Finally, we pride ourselves in serving as a connector among organizations in New York City that have intersecting interests related to our work. I imagine that being more closely involved with Hudson River Park would enable us to connect more of those dots with your organization, potentially yielding productive relationships or collaborations. Thanks, Ed. I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Questions in the room? We're awfully quiet bunch this year. Are there any, Tom, yes.
Thank you. Sounds like a wonderful organization. Can you clarify the relationship with EDC? Because you started off with something about the Economic Development Corporation. And I wasn't quite certain.
Sure. So EDC runs the larger Life Sci NYC initiative for New York City. It was launched in 2017, I believe, by Mayor de Blasio. It's a $1.1 billion initiative at this point, and there are many components to it beyond what we do, like mostly directed right towards industry, like supporting industry in a real estate context in particular. We are the workforce development component of that initiative, and we Upper West Strategies, which I work for, answered an RFP back in 2017 and was selected to run this program. We report to them, and all of our funding comes from the EDC at this time.
So are you an independent nonprofit or solely
We are not a
responsible to
nonprofit.
EDC?
So Upper West Strategies is an LLC. And the program we run, the Life Sci NYC internship program, is a program of the NYC EDC. But Upper West Strategies.
Okay. It's an EDC program. Okay, thank you.
Tom, if you go ahead and put your hand down. Are there any other hands online? Anybody else have any questions? Seeing no other questions, we'll move right along this evening. So, Mary, hi. Go ahead, Mary.
Hi, it's not directly for the candidates, but I wanted to check, and I think Circle Line is a great candidate, but there is a limit on how many tenants can be members of the advisory council. Have we checked that we have not exceeded that?
I'll have to check with Dan and Wendy to ensure that. Because I think we might be okay, because Riverkeeper Project was a tenant.
Oh, yes.
River Project, and they are no longer on the advisory council as of 2024. So I think that there is one slot in that
Okay.
spot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thanks.
I will have to confirm with Wendy and Dan. Yeah, that makes good sense. Tom?
Just a quick question. Is there any restriction about Economic Development Corporation subsidiaries or supporters, companies joining the advisory council?
Not that I'm aware of, no. There's no
Thank you.
thing. And technically while they have a contract with EDC, so they probably recuse themselves from anything that we would vote on part of conflict of interest board stuff with EDC. So that'd be something you have to know. Sure. But other than that, no, I think they're in good shape. Great, thank you, Tom. Graham, you're next.
Just a question for the last speaker. She spoke about sustainability, and I'd like her to elaborate a little bit on that and how that might play in the park.
So a number of the organizations where we place interns are either not-for-profits like Hudson River Park that have a vested interest, I think, in the sustainability angle. Or, you know, some of them are like material science, like we worked with a couple companies that are creating sort of biologically created fabrics, as well as some others that are a little bit more on the energy angle. So there's, you know, like a wide range of the companies that we're working with, both not-for-profits and companies that are focusing on sustainability. It's just one of the sort of prongs of types of companies that we are working.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I quite really don't see the relationship to Hudson River Park, but whatever. Thank you.
Okay, Mary, did you still have your hand up or no? I will take that as a no. Alrighty, do I have anybody else with any other questions? Oh, hi Doug.
Hi, Tammy. Hi, everybody. Yes, I just wanted to kind of follow up kind of on that last train of thought. I was wondering if there are any kind of current partnerships that involve Upper West Strategies and CUNY and the park over the last couple of years or currently.
So we did post a position. I wouldn't say we have many partnerships with CUNY. I wouldn't say that they are connected with our work with Hudson River Park in the past. This year, as we have in the past couple of years, we did post Hudson River Park's summer opportunities and provided a large number of candidates. None of our candidates did end up being selected this year. We never have an obligation for any of our host companies or organizations to hire our candidates. Last year, we did have 2 interns working at Hudson River Park. As regards to CUNY, we work extremely closely with CUNY. From the NYC EDC, we do receive a subsidy fund, and many of our subsidies, the guidelines by which we distribute these subsidies so that host companies can pay their interns, eligibility is often predicated so that favored status is given to CUNY students. I believe this year we have our highest percentage ever of CUNY students that we are placing into internships. It may be more, I think it's well over half of our interns this year. And we have close relationships with career services offices, faculty, and many different groups at CUNY.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just say, you know, whether or not you join the advisory board, I'd love to hear a little bit more about it and ways that we can link up with Borough Manhattan Community College.
Sure, and the MCC is one of the colleges where we have relationships.
Oh, great.
Talk to you further.
Great, thanks.
Perfect. Any other questions from anybody in the room? Online? Going once? Going twice? Okay, so I think, thank you very much for your presentation. That closes our presentation by applicant portion. We're going to move on to the membership voting part. So if you remember the way the bylaws read, all members who are renewing all just have to vote. So when you get the email, you will see that you need to click all the organizations that you're putting through. Okay? It is open vote. I think we've used this 2 years ago. We did it before. So I'm just gonna run through super quick the voting members and we'll go from there. All right, so we have Assemblymember Glick's office. Tracy, I see you here. Assemblymember Simone's office is, he's still here to vote. Nope. Okay, and that is gone, but if Wendy comes back, Wendy will be here. Assemblymember Rosenthal. Assemblymember Ball. I'm CV1, CV2. All right, Jessica for CV4, the controller's office.
No, not a statutory number, not a voting.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Congressman Goldman's office. Congressman Nadler's office.
You guys saw Hannah on?
Hannah.
Hannah's on, she's there.
Okay, so Tracy's here and Hannah's here, great. Councilmember Marte? Caitlin, are you on? You are. I'm like, oh, like you are.
Okay, 1 second.
All right.
We got Tracy.
Mhm. Starting at the top, Tracy Jackson is here, Matt was here,
That's not,
Erica is not, Assemblymember Paul,
it's not.
I'm here. Dan's not here, I don't see Mark Diller. But I'm here.
Okay.
All right, Jessica's here. I don't see Evelyn Pilato.
No, she's not a voting member.
There we go.
Ah. Kevin, Congressman Goldman's office.
Don't see Kevin.
Hannah,
Hannah is there. Councilmember Marte is not in present. Councilmember Botcher.
I saw Pat.
Pat was here.
Pat, are you still on? Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Pat.
I,
Councilmember Brewer's office.
Shula, I didn't see Shula, or is anyone from Councilmember Brewer's office on?
Moving along, city council speaker is Alan Osteron.
That's the one that's not fun.
No.
You
I vote to see.
Sorry about that, that's me. Senator Hoylman's office.
Senator Hoylman's office, you can tell us,
Yeah,
Jonah, is it you?
Yep.
Sam?
Yep. So Jay Rhodes. All right, Senator Cavan, no. Chelsea Piers, Management and Foundation.
Sweet. Senator Kavanaugh's office is not.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm here. This is Stacy.
Oh, hi Stacy, you are
Hi.
here. Excellent. This is why we're reading it off.
All right,
Stacy,
okay.
Chelsea Piers, Management Foundation, Alex.
Chelsea Village Partnership. Chelsea Waterside Park.
We have. See Waterside Park. Oh, gee. Well, you guys have, we're both on. What? Okay. Are you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. City Club, Tom. Perfect. All right.
When from, it's not on.
Chelsea Block Association,
CCBA.
CCBA.
Al, are you the? Yes. Who's? You're,
Phyllis.
who is, one of you have to be the.
I'll just that's what we do.
We need which one email, that's what we're checking.
Al.
Out, there you go.
Cool.
All right, thank you. Down,
Downtown Boathouse. I believe I saw both Fran and Martin voting.
Martin is the one that we have as the voting member, is that right?
Yep, yep.
Okay, gotcha. Andrew Zelter, I saw Isaac Daniel. I saw him online as well. Oh, no, he's in. Alrighty, is
anyone here from Josco then? No.
okay, Friends of Pier 84,
Susan?
Greenwich Village Little League.
Yes, I'm here, Peter Marino.
Thank you, Peter. Hudson Guild. Ken, are you here? Not seeing Ken. Rob, you're on. Rob Ronnie, you're voting. Connie, you're here. Perfect. And Hudson River Water Trail Association.
Yeah, that's me, Rob Buchanan.
Gotcha. Thank you, Rob. Intrepid. Mike, are you here?
Yes, Mike and Isco, Trevor.
Perfect. Lilac Preservation Project. Mary, I know you're here. Little Island, Michael, are you online? I see Michael's iPhone. Is that you? All right, Manhattan Youth, Tasha.
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect, thank you. New Yorkers for Parks, Jessica. Absent. North River Historic Ship Society, Huntley. Pier 66, Marie.
Here.
Okay.
So no Huntley.
Huntley. Village Boathouse, Community Boathouse, Sally or Deborah.
Sally?
Sally is here.
You're on mute.
Yeah.
Sally, are you voting? Give us a thumbs up if so.
Yes, I'm here for Deborah.
Okay, perfect. And then West Village Houses, Jeff or Katie. Transportation Alternatives, Kathy or Emily. Doug, I see you from BMCC. Thank you. Fulton Houses, Hector. Okay. Somebody from the trust is voting.
Nope. No.
Oh, no, you guys don't vote. Sorry. All right.
Barely invited.
All right. So I think that's everyone. Rob's going to launch the OPA vote. If you have any questions, please direct message me. If you're online or if you're in the room, please ask Robert on the side. All right. It will stay open. The OPA vote, you should receive the email. It's a secure email. Please check your spam to make sure it did not go there. And then it will stay open through the end of the meeting. Anybody have any other questions?
My laptop.
As you wish. Okay, so while that's happening, let's welcome our presentation from the Friends of Hudson River Park Trust. We're really delighted that you could come today and present, and there's always a great amount of interest in the work that you do. So it's a first a thank you for the work that you do to support and keep us going in such fantastic shape from A to B, and take it away.
Thank you. So I know most of you, I'm Connie Fishman, head of Hudson River Park Friends. We're just friends of the park. We're not friends of the trust, even though we're friends of the trust. So, I've been in this job since late 2016. And for people who are new, prior to that, I was at Hudson River Park Trust from before the legislation was passed until 2012. So Hudson River Park. I wanted to start with something really basic, which is just what is Friends, and in general, what are Friends groups? And I wanted to sort of give as much of the universe as I could about this, because there are many, many, many Friends groups of different parks throughout New York City. This list is just the ones that I found online that are part of a coalition we belong to, which is called Parks and Open Space Partners. And I'm sure that there are probably equally as many throughout the city that aren't part of this group yet. It was a group that sort of formed organically during COVID when we were all simultaneously freaking out about how would we be able to raise money. You couldn't meet anybody in person, you couldn't throw an event, you couldn't do a volunteer program, and suddenly every revenue source that you had was pretty much eliminated. And so we and Riverside Park and Governor's Island and Prospect Park and a couple of the other better known ones started getting together to meet to sort of, you know, pick everybody's brains. And then slowly over the next 3.5 years, all of these other groups joined. And one of the things that was bad about COVID, but great about having formed this group is we now share ideas with all of these groups. We help each other. The sense of competition that we used to have about fundraising has kind of disappeared, because one of the things that's key to being a friends group is you really are friends with that particular park. Unless you're a citywide group like City Parks Foundation, which raises for everybody. And it's a way of learning from your peers. Our friends group had initially been an advocacy group more than a fundraiser, and about 10 years ago that shifted. And so we still felt like we have a lot to learn from people like Prospect Park Alliance and Central Park Conservancy and Friends of the High Line about how to get better at the fundraising part. So generally, these are the things that friends do that we could see from looking at we do and looking at what our peers do. A lot of them start as one person who sees their local park not looking great, gets together either by themselves or a friend or a few neighbors, and asks the people who work in the park or the Parks Department how they can help. A lot of people start with only volunteers doing things like picking up trash and helping pull weeds. And from there, over a number of years, things evolve. So there's a lot of planting, cleaning, repairing things that the park can't afford, providing what is essentially free supplementary staff to the parks if the Parks Department budget won't cover it, organizing and doing programs, raising money for things that aren't budgeted for, helping fund additional staff, and the list just goes on. And everybody does it a little bit differently. Some people do large capital campaigns. If you're a place like Prospect Park or Central Park or the High Line or Madison Square Park, you evolve to the point where you actually take over the operations of the park itself. So the Central Park Conservancy, which is sort of everybody's dream of one day being like, is the one that maintains programs, picks up the trash, hires the security, does all of those things for Central Park, not the Parks Department. And that changed over many years as their relationship evolved. They still have a relationship with the Parks Department. They still get money from the Parks Department for certain projects, but so every group does it a little bit differently. These are the things that Hudson River Park Friends mostly does in tandem with the Hudson River Park Trust, because we don't want to come in the park and do something that isn't what they need to have done. So we work together every year in terms of where they feel short, where they could use help, what isn't budgeted for, and we go through those in detail and try and decide where our help is most needed. We help do the horticulture, primarily through volunteers, but also by purchasing plants and trees and flowers and equipment and supplies and working on things that assist the horticulture department. We supply resources for the education program. So things like the internship programs and the wet lab and science equipment. And we work with all the different departments at the trust to understand what they want and what we can purchase for them. Public programs and events. So all of the wonderful things that you see when you go to the park, the dancing, the music, the classes, the fitness, all of those things are things that when we get money donated to us, we give money to the trust. Playgrounds is something that we have now done a couple of, and these include both maintenance, renovations, and new playgrounds. Dog parks, we're very involved in helping maintain the dog parks and getting sponsorship for dog parks. And then the volunteering, which is a very large program for us. We also internally do things like outreach and communications. So we have newsletters and social media that we help with. There's general operating support, which is just money that the trust can use wherever they feel they need it. We do capital campaigns. So far for playgrounds, we've done 2 capital campaigns, the new playground at Chelsea Waterside Park and the new science playground at Pier 26. And then we're around for emergencies. One of the first projects that happened with playgrounds was after Hurricane Sandy, when the playground at Pier 25 got flooded and needed a bunch of work and somebody to help them with it quickly. And that was sort of the beginning of our going forward, following that to do capital campaigns. The way that we raise money for all these things are pretty much 3-pronged. First, there's individual giving program, and that is just you or me as an individual goes to the park, loves the park, contributes $10 or $100. In membership, we have what we call a Friends with Benefits membership program. For $50, you join for a year. If you want to give more than that, you can. And that level of giving is probably the broadest. And I think right now we have about 1,200 members. The next membership program is for people who love the dog runs. That's our Four-Legged Friends membership. Instead of getting a tote bag, you get a dog tag or a dog bowl. And those are really people who are absolutely dedicated to the park and keeping it in good shape. And they are often there 3 or 4 times a day. So the membership comes from lots of people, most of whom live by the park and use it a lot. But some people, just because they ride their bike and they know that's Hudson River Park next to it, and they want to contribute. Then we have what is called a development committee. It's kind of like a junior board. And these people both donate at higher levels, but also are focused on individual things that they can raise money for. So there is a group that is an arts and culture group. There is a group that is about sports and athletics. And there is a group that is interested in the environmental education. And they independently work with us to both help attract resources, but also donate to those programs that the trust runs. We have a playground committee, which was initially modeled after what the Central Park Conservancy calls its Women's Committee. And they are very focused on children's activities on playgrounds and on family programming. It's currently about 100 families strong, all up and down the park. And they were ambassadors for raising the capital money needed for the playgrounds we were talking about earlier. Then there is something we just started this year, Team HRPK. We were chosen as a charity partner for the New York Marathon and Half Marathon and 5-borough bike tour. And so people raise money peer to peer from their friends for each of those in order to acquire the charity bibs to wear in the races. Then there are park dedications, benches. If you've been to the park, you'll see a bench that is in memory of someone who has passed away or celebrating the birth of a child, or people will do it for an engagement. There are all kinds of reasons people want to commemorate somebody that they love or a particular event. Then regular donations that you just go online and you click a button, and those go to the annual fund, which is really general operations and maintenance. And then we have smaller campaigns and fundraising events that are at higher donor levels, including our board, and capital campaigns where people give whatever they want, but typically larger amounts than they would just going by the park and wanting to become a member. We also have community partners, which include some of the organizations that are here in this room today. And these sort of dovetail with our membership program, where you get kind of a museum style membership. You get a digital card on your phone, you show it to a local vendor and you get a discount. We just were talking yesterday about how to bring in all the vendors here at Pier 57 into our community partners program so that people can use their membership card to get something to eat here and have the cost lowered. And then some of them, like in the pets group, wind up being sponsors of our Four-Legged Friends programs, or they come to events in the park where they can set up a table and engage their neighbors and introduce themselves as a local business. Then we have our larger corporate prong, which is a combination of corporate membership and corporate community engagement. And the big program there is the volunteer program. So last year, there were 3,100 volunteers that we brought into Hudson River Park. They performed over 94 hours of 100 hours of work, mostly with the horticulturalists at the park, over a span of 118 events. And if you think about the season, which is really April until December, and the weather that happens all throughout the year, that is a huge amount of work and number of days in the park, and lots of people who are out there doing things like planting bulbs, pulling weeds, putting plants in, putting trees in. And the majority of those 3,100 people come from the 60 companies that are part of our corporate membership program. And so the corporations that are large enough to have things like community service days for their employees, they come out in groups of anywhere from 25 to 50 typically. It was a kind of slowly growing program. And then after people started being able to come to work in the office again after COVID, it really took off. There was a lot of demand for community service by the people working at these places, for opportunities to get outside, but also from employers trying to think of ways to get people working in the office again. And so they are much more interested than they were a few years ago at joining these kinds of programs and giving their employees a reason to get together, to be in groups, to do team building and have some sort of exercise that they do together. And at the same time, most of them are near the park. So we have our volunteer gardening, we have our compost volunteers, and we have a new initiative, which is the Blue Team. And this is people go out to the riprap next to places like Gansport and get the plastic out of the water, catalog it. There's the trust participates in a database about plastics and larger and microplastics. And so all of the data that's collected by the volunteers goes into that program. This is our current corporate membership group. It's mostly Westside businesses, but not all. There are about 22 of these that are joining at a higher level to become part of what we call a business council. It was formed also during COVID when we couldn't do volunteer events and we were looking for alternative ways to get people engaged with the park when we couldn't actually be in person. And now we do things like breakfast series, lunch and learns, receptions. We give them a platform for actually meeting each other, because even though a lot of these companies are, you know, one next door to the other in different business districts across from Hudson River Park, they don't know each other. They don't interact, you know, so you've got all kinds of these huge companies in a place like Hudson Yards or Hudson Square, but they don't really meet each other. They're all in their own different office units or different buildings. And when they come to these events, they meet. they find out they've been working next door to each other for, 5 years, and they're all interested in Hudson River Park. We just had our first big breakfast meeting a few months ago and got speakers in to talk about resilient design and sustainable building. And so it's just a nice sort of spine along the west side to help connect all these disparate business districts that have been growing over the last 10 or so years. And then the third way that we raise money are at events. We have a very large gala every year, smaller than it used to be before COVID, but still a big event, and it brings in the majority of our income still, even though we would love to get in a position where other kinds of giving eventually overtake gala giving. And then every winter we have a playground committee luncheon. Both of these events are held at Chelsea Piers. And so we like keeping things in the park when we can. And then we have a lot of smaller events and activities besides the gala and the luncheon throughout the year. Dog events, business council events, member celebrations, volunteer celebrations, donor cultivation, board and development committee meetings. So the staff is very busy. And the last thing I wanted to show, actually, I think it's the next one. So I wanted to show the calendar just to get a sense of the activities that the Friends are doing and how often they're happening. So this is April and May. The majority of these are volunteer projects. We have volunteering usually with corporations in the park Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday every week. Plus every other week, we have what's called a Saturday Green Team. The Green Team is mostly people who came once with their company and really liked it, and they get in touch with us afterwards and ask if there's an opportunity to come back and do it again. We also just get people who walk by. When we're having a volunteer event, there's a table out in the park with information and one of our staff talking to people, and they just come up and say, this is great. I grew up not in the city and had a garden or, was around a lot of green space, and I would love to start doing this. And so they start getting involved in the green teams on weekends. And then our last group of volunteers, I would say primarily retired, but not totally, is a group of, I think, between 15 and 20 folks right now who are neighborhood gardeners. They live near the park. They want to garden. They come in 2 or 3 days a week. They adopt an area, essentially. They are skilled. They get trained by the horticulture staff. They have their own tools. They know what they're going to do every time they're there. They communicate directly with the horticulture staff so they understand what's needed, and they are in charge of their little piece. So if you see the gardens like where the big apple sculpture is in Greenwich Village at Charles Street, those are neighborhood gardeners who take care of that one. They work together with the horticulture staff, but many times when you go out there, it's really just them doing it. And there is a certain sense of ownership about it and real pride in being that person. It is their garden too. And so it's a great interaction with the community. And then just, June and July, obviously June is chock full. And we're always out there. If you're ever walking by the park, we do, I would say, maybe a third or more of our volunteer gardening in the Habitat area, which is between the boathouse at 26th Street and the heliport at 29th Street. It is very intensive. And so we have lots and lots of groups that are over there. And then we have a lot that will be at places like Pier 64, where you see the beautiful plants all year, and downtown south of Greenwich Village in Tribeca, where there's a lot of landscaping that sort of has that wild native planted beach grass kind of look. And if you're there in the summer and you want to help us pull some weeds, stop at the table. And just get in touch with whoever is out there, because we can always use help, especially in July and August. And that, I think, is it. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Sorry, no problem. Can you maybe just speak to, it looks like when we're audited financials, it raised about $2 million a year, is that accurate?
No, we raise about $5.5 million a year.
What's the split on this?
It's about $1 million on individual, about $1.25 million on corporate, and the majority of the remainder comes from events.
I mean.
Can't hear.
I have no word for now.
Yeah, I can't hear.
No,
How are things, like, how do you see your projected growth, or where do you see the growth of your?
We were growing until obviously 2020. And then took a big
2019.
hit. We were lucky enough by the end of 2021 to have gotten some of the federal money to be able to continue to pay staff, which was a big deal. And then starting last year, I believe, or no, the year before last, our fiscal year just ended. So March 31st was the end of our current fiscal year. So starting with the year before that, it started climbing back up. One of the areas that's grown the fastest is with corporate membership.
I've seen hands up online. Tom? I'll go last. Tom, go ahead.
if anybody would like to see specifics, GuideStar, which publishes nonprofit 990s, will show you their revenue and expenditures over the last 5 years. Thank you, Connie. You raised 5.2 million last year, and of that 2.1 went to the trust, which seemed like a small number, since it was specifically high net worth individuals who were supposed to increase funding to the park. Do you have plans for any major new initiatives like the meatpacking, some of your corporate partners like the meatpacking district and Hudson Yards and Hudson Square don't donate significant money to the park, even though they flood the park with corporate employees and residents, and we're looking to triage half of Pier 76 to pay for it, while Hudson Yards across the street doesn't contribute anything and perhaps could. Do you have any plans to increase your fundraising? I know the trust has, because Prospect Park Alliance generated 21 million last year, and they're about the same size, 523 acres, and Central Park raised 120 million, which you said is the creme de la creme, I understand. But there's a tremendous amount of wealth across the street. And a park improvement district was proposed in 2008, and actually you did that wonderful study in 2017 that showed that the park is generating $1.2 billion for the city, $1.4 billion for the state, and employing 3,000 people, expecting to rise to 5,000. So that's tremendous economic impact. And the trust has supported a park improvement district in the past. The Friends have actually started that initiative in 2012, but backed off. Is there any chance that Friends will step up and try and establish a park improvement district? Because the initial projections were that the park improvement district at just a 0.075 cents a square foot would generate $13 million a year this year. So that seems like a very effective fundraising mechanism. And everybody knows the park is suffering. So perhaps you could parlay your influential and affluent board to try and institute something that's meaningful and long-term. Is that in the plans at all?
Okay, there are three things in that sort of question.
Sure.
So I'll just start with the first one. If you look online at our most recent audit, and you go to the breakdown of what is administrative, what is fundraising, and what is program, the number that you were looking at in the 990 is basically cash.
Your grant to the park, yes.
Yeah, as opposed to programs that produce things that benefit the park. And so if you look at the program side in the audit, that's actually $4.1 million. So there are
So then
many.
you give more than you get? You got 4.1 in programs?
No,
and-
there are,
Oh,
the 2.1 is included in that,
oh, okay.
but there are many dollars that benefit the park that are not cash transfers directly to the bank account at the trust. And so that's where the discrepancy comes in. As far as the businesses across the street, one of the successes since COVID has actually been increasing the corporate membership and creating those relationships. Depending on the business, you know, it's a great time for some businesses, but I'm sure you know that it is not necessarily a great time for real estate businesses, which is where a lot of the previous donations had come from. So, you know, one of the areas that we are working on, especially with the opening of Hudson Yards in the last couple of years as those buildings get filled, is introductions to people at those companies and getting both corporate memberships, higher level donations, and if we can, board members from the neighboring corporations. I was not at Friends or at the trust during the couple of years that the bid effort was going on. My understanding, and I can't tell you it's correct because it may not come from the best source on this, was that there was quite a bit of opposition to the bid by the local community. And so my feeling is that to bring it back up, one of the things that we would definitely need to do is figure out why that was and how to overcome that before we launched a new effort. Because in the end, the bid idea was dropped, from what I understand, because of local community opposition.
It was, and the community actually opposed the park when it was first proposed, so things do change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. I'm just gonna say from a perspective of Community Board 1, they were rabidly against adding a PID down across from where we are. And while the park is for the most part substantially built and amazing and we love it, I'd be just super happy if we could get the local neighbors to contribute more to the estuarium to get that built. But as you said, post-COVID, money is tight. And I'd bet my car and my bicycles and my scooters and every other mode of transit that we own that we wouldn't get a PID through on safety one based on the current tenor. Mary, your hand is up next.
Thanks. I'm curious, I'm not sure if the Friends is behind it or if the trust is, but that we've noticed a few corporate sponsorship kinds of things where, for instance, we've asked about the banner right outside the science playground where Cornell Wheel is advertising. And I just noticed a plastic doggy poo bag that's sponsored by a veterinary corporation. So is the Friends behind that and lining up those corporate sponsors? Or where does that come from?
I'm happy to jump in here. Those are both actually, those are both under the trust. You know, we do look for opportunities for corporate support for us directly as well. The Lake Pole Banner program, I think, used to, as I'm told, and it was before my time from joining the trust, I was a park goer then, it used to be much more robust before COVID. They used to have Lake Pole banners with sponsors all the way up and down it. We have not had as much success in recent times. In part, we have tried to shift some of the messaging to be less ad-like and more sponsor-like. It is certainly something that we continue to try to do. We do also have, and we look for these types of opportunities, creative ways in order to bring in some sponsorship revenue. So the doggy poop bags, you are right. It's a good eye. Those were ones where we were able to partner with Bond Vet, who both paid for the privilege of providing us the bags, having their name on them, a rather discreet sign sort of acknowledging their donation, as well as a nice sponsorship fee. So we try to look at it. It is, I will say, as all things in the park, a real balance. We don't want to over commercialize the park. We do try to do so in sort of discreet ways. Signage is a consistent issue. We try to keep our signage to a minimum so people can really enjoy the enjoyment of the park. It is one of those ones where we do also, you may see our Healthy on Hudson program for several years was sponsored by Lululemon. We had a really great partnership with them. Lulu did not return as a sponsor this year, so we have partnered with a number of smaller studios. Blues Barbecue has sponsors. It is something where we do try to bring in direct revenue and try to do so in a tasteful manner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Tom, is your hand back up?
Yes, it is. Relating to that particular issue, these individual corporations can't give out of the kindness of their heart. They have to litter the park with advertising. Is that the way it's done in Central Park and other parks? Advertising all over the place? Question.
I mean, I see very little advertising at all in Hudson River Park in general.
Yeah.
I know when I go to Bryant Park in particular, you're aware of the sponsors immediately, but there's almost none in Hudson.
Just like the new playground has that big wall of all the sponsors on it.
The new playground has
Yeah.
what is called a donor wall.
Yes.
Those are not companies, those are individuals who gave to help build the playground.
Okay, so the benches and the playground, anything that's donated by individuals will have their names on it.
It
Thank you.
depends on how they donate. Every
Okay.
donor is different. We have some donors who give quite a bit of money and want to be listed as anonymous. We have other donors who give a tiny amount of money and want their name on something. So it just depends on who you're dealing with. But normally the corporations that are part of our membership program, they get no acknowledgement other than the sign that is in front of the table when we go out to do the volunteer gardening event that says, welcome to whatever the company's name is. And as soon as they're done gardening, the sign goes in the garbage. At least on the Friends side, there's very little that you would consider advertising. Although I do wish that we had thought of the poop bags.
Look, that Amy had helped pass that one over to us. It was a company that you guys had partnered with on that one of your corporate sponsors. They were interested in something more unique.
I do wish that they would be so unique in every park. Rob, you had a question?
I just, I looked at the 990s and was just struck by how high the salaries of Friends employees were. And, especially compared to the trust employees themselves. So I'm just curious how that came to be, why that's so, and what the justification is. We all work for nonprofits, and I mean, we don't all, but a lot of us do, and the salaries it's a whole different thing. So I'm curious about that, and maybe would be curious to know how it compares to other similar parks for groups.
I'm gonna say that we will go by the same open meeting law rules on this topic. It can be answered in generalities, but you have to go into an executive session if you're talking about any individuals.
Well, this is just I'm looking at the whole, everybody listed on the 90, so not any individual, but as a group, they struck me as very high. That's my reaction anyway.
As a group, the difference between trust staff and Friends staff is the trust is has a government job, including a government pension, which is something that the nonprofit staff does not have. And in general, we use guidance from, there are, essentially data aggregators that show you in your region what is the title that goes with certain responsibilities for different jobs. And we use those the same way as any company would in order to make sure that people aren't being recruited away from us. We have a very good track record at this point in keeping people who are good for quite a while, which is very helpful. But, having worked on both the government side and the nonprofit side, you really can't compare the salaries without looking at the whole picture between the employees.
Thank you very, very much. I'm going to put a plug in. I just put it online. I'm going to plug it also here. If you have received your email, please open up and vote. And yes, I can see how many people have voted, so sorry. That's why I'm like, please, you only have until the end of the meeting to vote. And I will tell you exactly how many more people we need to actually fill out.
Well, I would really appreciate receiving the email because it's not in my junk and I've asked 3 times and it's not in my regular mail. So please carry a pigeon perhaps.
That it was sent to you. So if you can send me a different email that I'll try it to.
You don't need to. It's fine. I get every email in the world, but this one. Thank you.
Okay. So everyone should have gotten it. I have so far from the 28 voters we currently have in the meeting. I have, there were no bounces, no spam, and no opt-outs. So I have 28 that were delivered to the program. So if you haven't, please just let me know. And Tom will.
I'll just send you an email with my votes and you can count them.
That sounds great.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Connie before we say anything? Thank you very much for presenting and thank you for going through that. We'll move on to the next thing for the Hudson River Park Trust report, please.
Hi, this is my little bit here. We're gonna have a special intermezzo presentation, which you guys might want to step up for. I'll get there pretty quick. I'm gonna, complaints that we share too much information on these things, so I will try to cut it back. I hope everyone has read every single word of our report. It is 8 pages long. A couple of things. On Gainesville Peninsula, we are still waiting from the DOB in order to open the restrooms. They are ready. Otherwise, on our end, we do need DOB sign off before we're able to open them. It is an FPY inspection that has to go through DOB. So we are actively trying to push them as fast as possible. We are also, we have put in response to some issues we had identified when the pier opened last year, as well as comments from folks in the advisory council. We are trying to add some additional lighting on the south side, and that has been delayed due to some supply chain issues, which you think would be resolved if you read the news, but are in fact not, and it's just a problem. 29th Street to 44th Street. The design team continue to get oriented to the site. They're doing some initial looking at it. We are going to be reaching out to community board 4 and others to try to start thinking about how we are going to introduce the design team to the community. Hopefully kick that process off soon. On the estuarium, I have already reached out to community board 1 to start planning for the next engagement meeting on estuarium design. Pier 97 continues on. Unfortunately, it is, I don't have a date. I desperately wish I had an opening date. We're in that horrible intermezzo period where anytime they tell me something, it's going to shift with the weather. So I do not have a specific. For summer environment and sanctuary things, with Gansmore and the warmer weather, we really entered field trip season. It's super exciting. Last month, we started a new field trip program, Salt Marsh Science, on the north side of Gansmore. It allows students to explore different ecosystems and learn about coastal resiliency. It is really fabulous. We've gotten a great response from it. It's a really good site. Students also go over to the south side to look at the tide pools and examine some of the life that is accumulated there. And where I believe we are seeing some really interesting crab life. So if you're ever on the south side, you should go down and look at the tide pools. They are teeming with life and working as planned. We were able last month to work to do both partner for Riverkeepers River Sweep, which is a shoreline cleanup program in Janesville, which includes interesting tours of New York City, all around the city. Two big events. We also had our first deployment of Gulp, our waste shark, who as part of it. During the DOE spring break, our science team, site education team popped up at the science playground just to help kids do some learning about the structures that they were on and all of that. It was actually fabulous to receive. If anyone has been down to the science playground, you will say it is absolutely mom. It is incredibly popular. And I ask signs to remind people that there's a second playground literally behind them. But I don't think they're going to follow it. This coming weekend, we have Submerge Marine Science Festival. This was in the fall for many years. It's now in May. We are now in the center of field trip season. We think it's going to be a really exciting change. It kicks off our season instead of ending it. We are welcoming over 900 school students for field trips on Friday, already booked. Very exciting for it, and I cross our fingers for good weather. I believe we're going to get it on Friday. Saturday looks possibly a little bit rainier, but that's the day that we're open to the public, so you can come touch wildlife. We have performers. It's a really great day for kids to come and learn all things environmental science. My personal hope is that DEC, which I'm told has the eel ladder, is coming with it. It is a wild thing to see these eels literally play and climb up to point the right at. On our Gansevoort research program, this is the grant we got received from NOAA. We are in procurement for our research team. We had 2 strong responses, and we expect to seek for approval for a contract at our June meeting. Our CUNY Visiting Scholar program. We have 2 selections, and so this is a partnership we have with CUNY, where we partner to help fund specific research with the professors who have teams to do research in the park. Both this year are from Brooklyn College, and we have Dr. Root's research team, which will use nanopore DNA sequencing technology to monitor microbial communities and harmful microorganisms in river water, and also study the presence of bacteria with antibiotic resistance genes on microplastics in the park. Don't ask me. 2 professors, I'm not going to attempt these names, are going to be studying the influence of wave energy on habitat enhancement sites and oyster health in the park. This is one we're really exciting. It includes documentary from hydrodynamics. It's one of the interesting research questions about our abatements are the difference between them. Say the site at Gansevoort is between Gansevoort Peninsula shoreline and Pier 57 with it's big floats, so it really is quite locked in, whereas Tribeca is much more exposed. And so the difference between how the water moves in those is something that we have really been interested in, and we're excited to see these teams work. Both share their data publicly. They come to our public events like Ask the Scientist, and release some statistics to share their stuff with the public. So it's a really great program, a way to engage students, an excellent partnership with CUNY. I will now turn it over to our guest stars to talk a little bit about our public programming season, which just launched 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and flip to this and let me share screen first.
I can drive while you chat.
Yeah, for sure. So as Robert mentioned, Submerged Marine Science Festival is gonna kick off. Thank you. I'm Maggie Curtis. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Director of Events and Production here at the park.
Hi, I'm Andrew Ronan. I'm Vice President of Partnerships, Programming, and Events here at the park.
So as Robert mentioned, Submerged Marine Science Festival is going to kick off our programming season for this year. We're super excited about it, and Friends is actually providing, I think, over 100 volunteers for this particular event. So it's a really exciting one. Friday will be all field trips, and Saturday is going to be all open, generally open to the public. We're working with over 30 other organizations that we partner with often for science research and different things and programming throughout the park. So after that, we're transitioning into a few sort of pre-Memorial Day events that we're really excited about. We're gonna kick off a midday concert series that is really acoustic. We're partnering with a couple different groups for that particular event. And then we're gonna move into June. We'll have 4 days of fitness programming that'll last all the way through the end of September. So that marks an extension from previous years that we're really excited about. We're partnering with Bike New York again. We just kicked off their bike classes on the weekends in the park at Pier 76, really making use of that, the particular layout of that pier. And they've been a really great partner. It's been great to have them back. So that programming will last through the end of September. We also are bringing back Sunset Salsa, which is, sorry, I realize I'm not quite going.
That's all right. Keep going.
Sunset Salsa at Pier 76. That's a long-running program that actually has shifted around a couple locations in the park. Now at Pier 76, we bring minimum of 1,000 folks out every single week. We're super excited about that. That'll last June through mid-August. In terms of other dance stuff, we're also working with a partner, Dances Life. They teach Latin hustle. They're a super cool, inclusive group. They bring DJs and stuff out, and it's a very open dance. It's really exciting out on Pier 76. And we are kicking off that series on July 8th in partnership with Dances Life as well as Ladies of Hip Hop. It's their 20th anniversary, and this is going to be a kickoff to that festival. We also have Bollywood and Bhangra returning this fall. We're going to do a little sneak preview of that during West Side Fest. And then we will have classes running in September and October, Saturday mornings. It's a mix of fitness and cultural programming, and it will culminate in a Diwali celebration on October 26th. What did I
Can we
miss?
take it from here?
Yeah, go for it.
So we have a lot going on in the park this
Yeah.
season. It takes us all the way from this month all the way into October with something for just about everyone. This year we've added in a few extra special events as well, just to make ourselves a little bit busier than we already are. Next month on June 21st, which is the solstice, you'll see Improv Everywhere doing their MP3 experiment at Pier 84. You download an MP3, put on your headphones, and do strange things with complete strangers. It's a lot of fun. I expect to see all of you there. We're bringing out the New York Latin Food Festival to Pier 76 this September as part of Hispanic Heritage Month every Friday evening, starting from September 13th until October 4. The pier will be filled with some of New York City's best Latin cuisine and entertainment and culture. It should be a fun time. This year's sunset on the Hudson is at Pier 45, which it always is. Culminates on the Friday before NYC Pride. So we're making it a bit of a Pride celebration. We've invited the original Village People cowboy, Randy Jones, to join us. He'll be there, and we'll also be screening the YMCA video, which is actually shot in and around the West Side and on the piers that are now in the park.
That event is Pride to July 4th.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fun week, let me tell you. It's so yes, we have a lot going on for sure. And then we round out our season on the far end. We've all got a little bit of rest with our Pumpkin Smash event, which is all sorts of fun. And our Festival of Lights, as Maggie mentioned, celebrating Diwali in October as well. Almost forgot to mention because the ribbon is blocking it, but Monday evenings in July, when Broadway theaters are dark, we'll be bringing some Broadway stars to Clinton Cove, starting Monday, July 15th and running through August 5th, first Monday in August. I think I got that right. We don't have a set yet, but we're working with some really top-notch talent that'll be really amazing. It'll be a fun night of free, really high quality talent for everybody. We talked about blues, we talked about sunset, talked about river grooves. Our river project, as you heard Robert say earlier, continues on with their regular programming. They're year-round now because of the indoor ability that they have here to showcase all sorts of wonderful things that they do in and around the river. Dances Life I spoke about, and there's friends. So that is, in the nutshell, that's our season this year. Something for everyone. HudsonRiverPark.org/events has a full calendar of everything that's going on.
Since we tried to get everybody to go a little quickly today for reports, thank you, Robert. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I do.
I do. It was excellent. Thank you for that transition back to my regular report. So state DOT is working on, they have postponed some of the bikeway repair. They are, however, city DOT's lighting subcontractor, which we talked about last month, they are expected to do some lighting repairs along the bikeway. I believe they're beginning, mobilizations. As folks have talked about and acknowledged, this year, we have been alerted, that Macy's is returning to the west side this year. We are communicating with New York City, including MSP and other agencies. CECM, the mayor's Office of Citywide Event Coordination and Management, is taking lead on all operations and site planning. That includes all security measures, that will include access points, that will include viewing from the West Side Highway and all the other pieces that go into that. We are do not have specifics yet from anyone. We'll share information as we get it. The plans are being developed as we speak. And we do know Macy's will be expecting staged production from the 62 to 64 area. But beyond that, I don't have much more. I see a question on that topic.
I'm wondering if you can use the fireworks that are soundless. I live in a tower that overlooks the river. And as soon as the fireworks start, the birds fly. They're in a panic. They're flying quickly in one direction away from the shore. And
So we have no control over the fireworks whatsoever. That is coordination between Macy's and New York City directly. We in fact don't have any pieces of that. We are able to host their production, which is their concert piece, and their broadcast zone is kind of the only piece we have of that. We are a participant in this. We are not the lead in any way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Would you be able to give us more updates on June meeting? We will have a June meeting.
I hope so, but I make no promises because I don't control this flow of information. If it is available, I will share it.
And pursuant to what she's saying, I think if you can just relay to Macy's based on the rest of the buildings, if they can, like a warning shot, fire off to get the birds to move first, instead of just some kind of like car horns, whatever it is.
There are also that like Jersey City fireworks, and I believe they are also for fireworks going to be quite distant.
Yeah.
Mary, you have a question on this topic.
Not on this topic, actually. Is it okay if I go back to another one in your report?
Let me get through and then maybe we'll start with questions.
Okay.
Mary's next after that to do a safety committee update, so yeah.
Our fountains and spray features will all be turned on by the end of May. Temperatures have to be consistently over 70 degrees, really where we try to target it where people are getting wet. It's just kind of a safety feature. There's certainly, we've had 80-degree days and people ask us why the playgrounds weren't go on. And then this past week, we've had some 40-degree days. So it is too cold for us to have those on right now. They will be coming on. We planted 8 new trees park-wide on Arbor Day. We are working with the horticulture team and the river project team are together to try to replace the Spartina and Tyvek. You guys may see that map that is exposed. It's supposed to have grown. The Spartina has not been taken the way that we hoped, so we are trying some new techniques for it. Under public safety, you'll see the first line has a typo. I sent saved the wrong version before I sent it out, so I will fix that from the website. But generally, kind of entering a busy season, this is where we start to see all of the usual behaviors that you're familiar, everything from drinking and dogs on the lawn to partying to speakers and unpermitted events and all the other things that we have rules for good reason, start coming out at this time of year. I am going to skip over unless there are questions around the frying pan incident. I emailed everyone, folks out about it. That certainly was an interesting series of events. I will note, we have seen recently a number of thefts at the Pier 40 field. The perpetrators have been working in groups, have discreetly sort of taken valuable cell phones, credit cards from unattended bags. Unattended bags, we'll say, are an incredible, it is something that we try to hammer home to people. People leave their bags around the courtyard and then walk onto the field and are a block away in New York City. And I'm going to tell you, if you left your bag on any other block in New York City, you walk a block away, you would not necessarily expect it to be there when you returned. I love that people feel safe and comfortable in Pier 40, but they do need to secure their belongings. This is a recurrent thing, and when we create easy targets, consistently easy targets for these types of petty thefts, we attract for current folks who come back to really target that area because it is consistently profitable. So it is something we are working with our sports leagues about. It is something for those who are sports leagues on here, we try to remind everyone, for those who are otherwise in the park, don't leave your bags and walk away from them. It is a public space. I reported on the Con Ed oil spill at the last meeting. There have been some additional pieces. Con Ed was, I think, just last week was at Community Board 4, WPE committee. If folks want to hear more about that, there is certainly been also some public reporting on it, and I will try to keep that. We had some really great voting safety. May Voting Safety Month. It's also kind of the kickoff for water season. So we hosted our annual water safety meeting with all of our tenants and some of the key stakeholders in the voting community, talk about our processes, procedures. We invited Gateway to come present on the impacts that they will be having. They're going to start their rainwater construction this year. They're going to be doing some test pieces for their coffer dam, where they're doing ground freezing and improvements to do throughout the harbor. We wanted them to start joining and communicating with the park's boating community. There really is a community that needs to be developed as such. So we're really big at waterway, your ferry, city DOT, ferry division, marine fire division, coast guard, all were able to participate in that. The Downtown Boathouse and Maritime Association of the Port of New York, New Jersey's Education Subcommittee had a really great shared harbor day on May 4th. I was able to attend. It was incredibly fascinating. It's certainly a partnership. It's a great education program for folks who are already voters to get engaged and start really learning about the interactions in the harbor. So we hope to continue that next year. We also hosted a tabling effort at Hanford with our voting groups and boathouses and the Coast Guard Auxiliary at Hanford to help those who are not yet into voting, who are interested in, particularly with the kayak landing there, connect to safe boating programs. It's a key message for us to really get out there about how to vote safely. So there are education efforts for those experienced voters or people who are already voters, and we're really trying to connect through our non-motorized voting programs in the park. And again, we are one of the largest sites, certainly in the region, on the Hudson, in the Northeast. I believe Downtown Boathouse claims to be the largest free kayaking program in the world. They are one of ours, so I will take that as well. But to help make sure that everyone can get on the water safely, it's a key piece of our efforts. And we also had held a meeting. There was some aspects that folks asked about a DEC grant that we got from water safety. That grant is supporting things like life rings and repairs to easy docks, and also some new signage about how folks can connect with their water access sites. So we had a kickoff meetings with some of our stakeholders in both houses to start that conversation. You know, that folks have been interested in updates on that. Our concessions are all open. I will skip that piece. The only ones I will give a shout, Michael Wiggins might want to speak up as part of this to give a shout to Little Island's large programming season that they rolled out this year. Certainly an interesting piece of it. The Intrepid has its Free Fridays and other programming, movie nights, all of that returning. I know we have someone here from the Intrepid as well. So it's really exciting. All of our boathouses are opening at some point this month. So it's a great time to be in the park. You all should be out there. With that, I'm done. Take questions. Mary.
Wow, that was like speed dating or something. Yeah, I wanted to ask about Pier 97. I brought this up before, but do you know what the status of the RFEI for historic vessel there is?
We have not. So we had done that effort previously for the last one. We have those responses. I believe we are looking to see because we may have I believe some empty berths as well, but we have not yet sort of figured that out. We haven't really engaged in it. I think where we have to advance before the pier for it to open before we really we'll start looking into that.
Okay. Yeah, there's only one berth there.
Yes.
The water's very shallow.
But we may have other ones in the park, so it would be great.
Right, at Pier 26. Okay, thank you.
Do you mind giving the quick safety committee handoff? And
yeah, it's really quick. I'm very happy to say that last night at the executive committee meeting, Alan Oster and Michael Wiggins were approved as new co-chairs of the safety committee. And they and I will be meeting shortly to talk about the way forward, and I can hand off the baton.
Fantastic, thank you, Michael.
Sorry, our first meeting will be June 5th at 9 a.m.
All right, awesome.
Waiting.
All right, that is fantastic news. Going down on the agenda, the BPCA is hosting a meeting for the Northwest Resiliency. It's a public meeting on June 20th. I'm making an early announcement, so you can try and get it on the calendars. It's in person at Stuyvesant, so you can see the updated work that they've done on where they're crossing and the work they're doing at the bottom of the bikeway, the bottom of the Hudson River Park Trust land, going out along the whole bottom and their extension into the water. So that update will be June 20th. We'll give a brief comment and overview in June at Community Board 1, but nothing in detail. So if you'd like to see detail, you'll have to go to June 20th. We did ask them to come to do a special presentation just to the advisory council, so we can see the most updated information, and we're still waiting to hear back on that. That is my update for the Battery Park City Authority. We did new business in the beginning. Does anybody have anything else? If I look online or in the room that they want to add before we close? Perfect. I want to welcome Jessica, who's officially our appointee from CP4. She confirmed last week that she'll be our person until another person comes up. So thank her for her volunteerism. Jeffrey is off on the board, as everybody knows, and Dan will be back for next month. So I look forward to having a full group back. And then we will do nominations for the executive committee and vote next month in June, which we will be using overvote again. Please keep in mind, we do need quorum in the room. So we need to have 20 lovely individuals who will be voting in the room next month. And with that, seeing no hands, can I get a motion to adjourn at 8:15? Moved, seconded. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night and enjoy this beautiful weather.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.